Welcome to the KOMO Sports End Zone podcast with KOMO Sports Director Niko Tamurian and Najee Moye.
Welcome to the KOMO Sports End Zone podcast. I'm Niko Tamurian. He is Najee Moye. What's up, Najee?
Niko, we are working for the weekend, and boy, I cannot wait. We have a lot of stuff happening this weekend.
This is one of those weekends where you are just so happy and excited to live in Seattle and to root for our pro sports teams. I'm representing the Sounders here, 1-0 lead, MLS Cup playoffs. I love the Bruce Lee kit, by the way.
It's a great jersey.
And I'm hoping
jersey.
It is, and I hope they add a third star to this for a third championship.
Ooh.
That would be great. We got OL Reign this weekend as well.
Oh, yeah.
And I think that I want to start, of course, the Seahawks are on the road with the Ravens. And Kraken are in action at home. I mean, this is all fantastic stuff. But I really want to start this with the Huskies. Not only because you can watch that game on KOMO for 5th-ranked Huskies, 22nd-ranked USC Trojans, but it's a game, just like everyone will be from here on out, Naj, that will absolutely, positively determine whether we're talking about a national championship football team or not.
You know, and I mentioned this a lot when we talk about baseball, getting hot at the right time. You know, you'll find that a lot of baseball teams that go far in the playoffs, so teams that peak at the right time that are even struggling to even make it into the playoffs. Now, the Huskies are not struggling at all, but they will go through a gauntlet even before they even get to the Pac-12 championship game. I mean, they're traveling to USC, who honestly has a big bone to pick with just about everyone. I mean, they're running hot, you know, coming off the loss against Utah 2 weeks ago, and then only winning by a point against Cal. I mean, they've got a lot to play up to, and they know the leaders in this division is up here at Montlake, and they're coming down to California. I think it'll be a really fun game, and, you know, you mentioned you can watch it on KOMO. It'll be a really fun game because we have two, I'm not even going to lie, two of the best quarterbacks in the country. One last year's Heisman winner and potentially this year's Heisman winner as well, Michael Penix Jr. and Caleb Williams.
Yeah, and actually Michael Penix was asked about that earlier this week. He's like, listen, I know Caleb, great player, was very complimentary. He's like, this isn't me against him. It's two football teams against one another. But for everybody else watching, you know, Najee and I included, it is about that matchup. You know, it's a little early in the show, but I think I'm ready. Can we do an extra point, Mary? Bring up the extra point. I got a point to make. I got a bone to pick here.
Niko's running hot today, guys.
Yeah. It's early, but I've got something to say here. I saw an article and then a separate outlet doing a graphic. Here's the thing. They're saying UW is trending down because they didn't run right over Arizona State and Stanford, that they didn't win big. I'm going to tell you right now, it doesn't matter how many points they won by. They won. They're 8-0. In fact, you look at some of these things that say Oregon's trending up, Washington's trending down. In what world? The Huskies beat the Ducks. Did we forget that? Like, hello? And what really kind of makes me upset, like, when you look at it, it's just a lack of respect. And the problem with that becomes, you know, I think the integrity of the College Football Playoff Committee is sterling. I'm not suggesting otherwise. But perception is a real thing, right? And you know, for me, I even think that UW being number 5 in the first college football playoff ranking, I don't think that's right. I mean, I get that there's 4 other undefeated teams, and it's all going to be sorted out by December when it really matters. But the notion that UW is trending down because they found a way to dig down deep and get a win when they needed to the most, I mean, their season and their playoff hopes were just about over until Mish Powell picked off a pass and run it back. That's not a sign of weakness. That's a sign of a championship team that you didn't bring your A game and you found a way to win when it mattered the most. I'm a believer in that UW football team, win or lose this weekend, but let's not get negative just yet on that. I think this perception, this notion that they're somehow trending down, not what they should have been. I'm going to say baloney to keep it safe here. But
lunch meat from Niko.
You know when I start mentioning lunch meat, ham and turkey, it's not a good.
We've been on the microphone for 10 minutes. He's mentioned bologna already.
Can you tell I'm hungry?
Yeah, I'm starving too. But carry on. I'm sorry.
I think I was done. You can bring the extra point away if you want.
But here's
I got all I'm not as mad anymore. It was like therapeutic to say all that.
Niko, I understand where you're coming from. I really do. But you have to kind of look. Okay, we're used to these teams that are like really, really good. You know, rolling over teams that I mentioned last week, even after the Arizona State game. sometimes you have to be maybe luckier than good every particular week. I mean, like I said, before that interception, things did not look well. Now, I mentioned also against the Stanford game last week. I mean, the Washington's defense allowed some guy. I'm going to bring up his name because I completely forgot. Excuse me, 1 second. Ashton Daniels.
Yeah.
Went for 367 in the air and a touchdown, 31 of 48, and 2 rushing touchdowns with 81 rushing yards. If you, as a Huskies defense, allow someone named Ashton Daniels to do that to you, and you want to make it to the championship, I mean, even in the top Final Four, you got to play against Caleb Williams this week. I mean, these are the same things that cannot happen. These things cannot happen. Caleb Williams is going to have a good game regardless. Well, unless he's playing against Utah anyway. But I think you are right. I mean, we want to see good games. Let's talk about the Oregon game and talk about the last great quarterback that the Huskies faced, Bo Nix. Been playing football in college since I was 5, essentially. But he's a really good veteran quarterback, and that was an instant classic. I think we had the makings for another instant classic here in Los Angeles on Saturday, and we're gonna have all the highlights, all the scores, all the reaction on KOMO News at 8 right after the game or whenever the game ends. Niko will bring that to you. But that being said, I really think I can see your point, and that was a great extra point. I see what I mean. You expect more from Washington, and specifically their defense. Michael Penix, 4-touchdown game against Stanford, yes. However, this is not Stanford that they're playing against this week.
Yeah, and well, here's the thing with the road ahead too. It's USC, it's Utah, it's Oregon State, and it's the Cougs. The Cougs are the only unranked team on there, but it's the Apple Cup rankings don't matter. So you make a good point there as far as you'd like to see something of a more dominant performance. I just like the whole grit and determination. Okay, you didn't have your A game, found a way to win. Stanford, they rolled off a 29-0 comeback victory against Colorado, and UW is certainly a better team than Colorado. That's not a debate, but It's like they find a way to make it happen. Naj, we were talking about Michael Penix Jr. He and I was fortunate to kind of talk to him, a little pregame primer. Mike is such a good dude, always finds time. Everybody wants to talk to him, So we really appreciate him giving me a little bit of time. Here's Mike Penix and I on the field at Husky Stadium.
Going out and putting on a great performance, just the team, just make sure that we take each day, one day at a time with our preparation and practices and stuff like that, and just go out there and just execute and have fun.
And certainly the road environment down there, you mentioned it's sold out. Just the opportunity, Huskies against everybody down there. How cool is that chance for you all?
Man, it's just amazing, just the opportunity to be able to play the sport in general, just super blessed for the opportunity. I know a lot of people that probably want to be in our shoes, so I always say that I'm blessed to be in the position that I'm in. I worked hard for it, and I'm just thankful, and I got to make sure I take full advantage of it.
You absolutely worked hard for it, and it is an opportunity because it is the next one, as you were telling me earlier. Just what it means to be playing on that stage, and what can you tell us about SC in this matchup as far as the challenge is concerned?
It means a lot, just to be playing in Power 5 in general. Pac-12 is a great conference this year. You got a lot of great teams, and just speaking on SC, they're a great team, and it's going to be a great matchup. It's going to be a fun game, super exciting game. Great atmosphere, and we're just super excited to be out there. So.
And finally, certainly this fan base, you and this team have galvanized in the last couple of years. They are just so into everything. What does it mean that you have given them this team? Certainly, you're doing it for you and your team and everything else, but you've given this community something to really rally behind. What does that mean to you?
Yeah, it means a lot. We're giving back what they give to us. I feel like, and they give us a lot of support and a lot of love each and every Saturday. So we're just doing our best to try to give it back. Just by getting wins and continuing to, just keep this thing rolling.
Michael Penix Jr., best of luck against the Trojans. Thanks so much.
Sir. Thank
Appreciate you.
Yes, sir. Go Dogs.
Go Dogs indeed, right? Well, we appreciate Michael Penix Jr. Naj, I know we've talked about this at length. It's one thing to watch a guy like Penix with the arm that he has, but then it's another, and you see him in post-game interviews, and he's certainly genuine and honest and emotional. But when you have a conversation with like that, and what we just heard, you really gain a new perspective and respect for the guy that he is, the person that he is. I mean, he's just got the mindset you would want of somebody to lead your football team. To me, it makes him a quintessential perfect leader of a football team, not just in college, but the next level. I know you feel that way too, Najee. I think that this team, even when maybe he didn't play his best game against Arizona State, you knew he was going to bounce back. And for this team to have something as reliable as knowing their star quarterback's always going to bring it, I mean, to me, that's the difference between playing football the second week of January or not.
Oh, yeah, and there's also a difference from playing on Saturdays and to Sundays. I mean, he's definitely going to play on Sundays. I mean, pick a team. I mean, there's a tons of teams. We just know the Raiders need a quarterback. I mean, he will be a starter in the NFL fairly soon, and he may even be a starter in the same city that he's in right now. I'm just saying. I'm just
Never know.
You never know. You never know. But he will have to bring that A game, though, because, I mean, throughout the rest of the year, we talked about USC, game against Utah, game against Oregon State, and then the Apple Cup, which, I mean, yeah, I mean, it's going to be an Apple Cup for the ages, and
it's
It's
crazy.
going to be an insane one. So the A game will need to be brought. I believe Michael Penix will do it. I believe that they'll beat USC in another instant classic. Can you have two instant classics in 1 year? I mean, just like less than a month apart, essentially. You know, I mean, yeah, you definitely can, and I definitely think that, you know, this USC Washington game, I mean, it's going to speak a lot to the future of the Pac-12. Well, the future of any conference that these two teams are together. That you're going to see a lot. I mean, Washington's here to stay. Honestly, 100%.
Yeah.
I'm excited. Do you want to do some scores? I mean, predictions?
Oh,
maybe?
that's a tough one this week.
There's a lot of points. I think there's going to be a lot of points.
Yeah.
You may see, like, I want to say we probably will see upwards of 100, especially if
44-38 Huskies.
Ooh, well, we're going to see a lot of points, especially if UW's defense plays the way they played against Stanford last week. I want to say 55-50 Huskies.
Wow. All
There's
right.
going to be a lot of points.
In other words, bet the over, but don't hold us responsible.
Well, yeah, don't hold us responsible. Because, I mean, the thing is, these are two juggernauts on offense, you know. And, you know, it's going to be fun. So definitely everyone needs to watch this game, just like you need to watch the Oregon game. And honestly, you should be watching the Huskies every Saturday anyway, right?
Yeah.
And you should be watching us. If you're watching us, thank you.
We're
on YouTube now, by the way.
Yeah, if you're listening to this via wherever you get your audio podcast, if you're watching us, hello. But if you're listening to this audio, that interview with Mike Penix, you can actually see it. You can actually see what our KOMO 4 keys for the Hawks are coming up, which we'll bring you in a minute.
Yeah.
This is on YouTube, KOMO 4 News YouTube page. Excited to bring it to you there, including some other fun segments we have coming up, not just later in the show. But going forward, yeah. Speaking of moving forward, Najee, I think it's about that time. We love the Huskies. We think they're going to win.
Yep.
Let's talk about the Seahawks because it has been a crazy week for them. You come back the way you did against the Browns. You're down. You know, the ESPN, I know you like this, the ESPN predictor, the indicator, whatever you want to call it, they gave the Browns like an 86% chance to win and rightfully so. Like Cleveland had the ball up 20-17 at the 2-minute warning. Well, then, you know, Jamal Adams becomes an honorary member of the Sounders with the header there.
There you go.
Which my guy Julian Love intercepted. More from Julian a little bit later in the show.
Right.
And then it felt like when the Hawks got the ball back, they were just like, we're done messing around. Geno just was completing passes at will until we got the game winner there, which was really exciting to see to Jackson Smith and Jigba. So, and I love that they used, you know, you have two all-pro legendary receivers in Tyler Lockett and DK Metcalf. Yeah, you can turn to a Jake Bobo and a Jackson Smith and Jigba when you need them the most. And it was just a really cool thing to see. I was really excited to see it. They caught 2 of the 3 touchdowns. Bobo's was a handoff. Lockett got the other one. And I think that when you look at this team going forward, Najee, they're 5-2. First place, baby, in the NFC West. And I think that that's going to shake itself out as the season goes on, as we get into December and January. But to me, it's a sign of a team that's really starting to coalesce.
Oh yeah,
Go ahead.
No, you just mentioned the receiving core. I mean, I've been talking. You know, you'll find that a lot of people, whenever they draft us, Jackson Smith and Jigba, we're just like, okay, when is it going to happen? Well, as I mentioned on this podcast to our loyal listeners, I'm going to see him get the ball a little bit more. Game-winning touchdown last week. How about that?
Yeah.
I'm not saying I'm a fortune teller. Please do not listen to me for anything else.
Can we talk about this for a quick second? Because I did an Instagram story. I sound so old when I say that.
I did an Instagram story.
I did a story on Instagram before the game, and I ended by saying Hawks are going to win by 4.
I mean,
they won 24.
You heard it here first. You know, more catches from Jackson Smith and Jigba. Hawks win by 4. I'm not saying we're the source, but we're very important, and you should be listening and watching us. And if you do, and you already have, thank you. Thank you.
Yeah.
But this is a receiving core. This is quite the receiving core. Talk about the Legion of Boom, but I mean, and yeah, we'll get to that in a second. And they added another piece of the defense that will continue. Again, we'll get to it in a second, Najee. I'm getting excited. But
it's okay.
When you can go 4 wide like that, and then K9 or Jack Sarpany behind you with Geno Smith, who hasn't written anyone back,
He never will as long as Najee's doing the show with us.
He definitely will. How do you cover something like that? The Hawks played one of the best defenses in the league last week, and they're playing one of the one of the best. I mean, the Ravens are top notch. It's going to be very, very difficult for the Hawks to go across the country to Maryland to play against the Ravens. Yeah. I think it'll be a fun game.
They're tough too.
They're very tough. They are 6-2, first place as well. So I know last week Pete mentioned that the Browns game would be a bit of a measuring stick game, and this is almost definitely the same sort of game. I mean, the Ravens are definitely better than the Browns are, certainly. With the offense has gotten much better, and also I hate to admit it, but Lamar Jackson and Niko, you're in my fantasy league, one of 3.
I'm in second place.
Congratulations.
Well, in my other league, I'm dead last. So.
Oh yeah, exactly. I'm not. I'm we'll say a few games below 500. But I mentioned that to say I have Lamar Jackson in my fantasy league, and I do hope he does well. So we're hoping for points. Now that being said, the Seahawks defense did get a bit of a boost this past week.
Oh my goodness, yeah.
You mentioned Julian Love, a former Giant, another former Giant, well now former Giant. We've been talking about the Giants a lot in this podcast since I've been on that.
We have our resident Giant expert with us over there. So
trading for Leonard Williams this past week, and let me tell you, this is a trade. Trades in the NFL are kind of rare. I'm not gonna lie, but this is one that works out for both teams. The Giants are kind of going the opposite direction as the Seahawks. They kind of want to rebuild to give up a 5th-round pick next year and a 5th-round pick 2 years from now, and a 2nd-round pick next year to get a guy like Leonard Williams from USC, by the way.
Pete Carroll said he was watching him since his SC days, not Pete's SC days, but Leonard Williams' SC days.
Yeah,
and really liked him, and always said find him after games, and it's a perfect fit though. To your point, continue on. I just want to interject.
No, I was just going to mention that he's a stud. I mean, on the line for the Giants, you had him next to Dexter Lawrence, which Dexter Lawrence is one of the best defensive tackles in the league. I'm happy that Leonard Williams is kind of maybe getting, I don't want to say out of his shadow. Dexter Lawrence is a large man. There's a lot of shadow here. But so is Leonard Williams. He goes by the nickname Big Cat. So if you ever see him around town, around Seattle, or even at the stadium, just Big Cat, it's just
he'll know.
He'll know. But I think he fits really well with this defensive line. I mean, after a couple of injuries, adding Frank Clark a couple of weeks ago, and now Leonard Williams, I think this defense is going to really, really sing, especially starting this week.
I agree with that. Now, to me, I'm a big fan of this defense. I think that already, I think it's the best secondary in the NFL, and you've got Bobby Wagner and Jordan Brooks at the linebacking spot. I mean, I think you're pretty set there. If there was an area first of all, I think the defensive line has been really good. I mean, Uchenna Nwosu before the injury was phenomenal. Moye Mafe has been magnificent, really taking a leap from game 1 to game 2. But that's the dynamic here. We're going to bring you something that Pete Carroll said in just a minute here. When I look at this defense, I see a perfect blend of youth and veterans. And something that really stands out to me is the way the veterans, the Bobby Wagners, the Jamal Adams, the Quandre Diggs of the world are really bringing these young guys like Reek Will and Devin Witherspoon, Jordan Brooks, Moye Mafe, Darryl Taylor along. I mean, to me, it's a perfect blend. I actually asked Pete Carroll during the week about the notion that, how fun has it been to watch that dynamic I just described? Here's what Pete had to say about that.
Really fun. It's been really exciting to see it happen, and we're just kind of moving in the right direction. We haven't established anything yet, but we're moving in the right direction. You can see the potential of it, and that's why adding Leo and adding Frank, those are good additions for us right now, and so it is really fun. It's one my favorite part of what's going on, and to see these guys develop and start to feel what it's like to be able to control fast of the game, the running game, and stuff like that. So we're getting there. We're not there yet.
All right, well, that was Pete Carroll talking about the dynamic of this defense, how fun it's been. When he says, Najee, it's one of his favorite parts about this entire year, that's a big statement. And from a guy like Pete Carroll that is as experienced as he is.
Oh, yeah. I mean, the defense, you named a lot of names on that defense, and it's a solid defense. I mean, we talked last week about whether or not this defense is elite. I had some words. Mostly in comparison to other defenses, like the defense that they're facing this week. I think at the addition of adding Leonard Williams aids in that their elite rating. But that secondary is disgusting in the best way possible. but they've definitely got a hard task traveling to Maryland across the country, nearly to the other Washington. After all, it's going to be a fun game. The weather will be much nicer there than it will be here in Seattle this weekend. So I'm just excited for this game. I don't really know what I mean.
Yeah, I don't know what to expect because the Ravens are just as good.
Right.
But I'm looking forward to this Seahawks defense growing week by week, and there's inevitably going to be setbacks. They're not going to finish the season 15-2, as wonderful as that would be. But I'm just looking to see this team grow. We talked about the offense growing a minute ago with the receivers doing different things, but and the defense has been doing that in that same regard. We've got our KOMO 4 keys to this thing. Let's bring that up really quick, and I'm going to have super intern Mary, who is running all the controls, kind of like making this whole thing happen.
We will not be on your computer without super.
Yeah, so if you're watching this on YouTube, you can see this graphic, but and probably can't hear Mary no matter where you're watching or listening to us. But Mary, what's the first key on there?
Toughest test yet.
Yeah, that's my toughest test yet. My point on that is that I think you look at this season, and the Hawks are 5-2. The 2 losses being that kind of aberration in the second half against the Rams, and then just some missed opportunities against the Bengals. But I think the Ravens are a very good football team. I think this is the toughest test of the year. That's not setting them up to, well, shucks, if they lose, they lost to the best team. That's more along the lines of, if they win, I think it's downright proof and exclamation point of everything Pete Carroll said. Hey, they're not there yet, but there's a lot of potential there. And I think that you get this win, you start to put everybody on notice. And I think it's really, I think everybody should be on notice already, but I think that this is a win, if you get it, that is like, hey, we arrived. We're here. The Seahawks have always been here, and sky's the limit for this team. And that's why you went all in, which I think the Leonard Williams trade is a sign of. You're going all in if you're giving up a second-round pick.
Yeah.
You know what I'm saying? And I think this win, I think the trade's justified regardless. I agree with it in every way, but I think you get this win, you're just justifying all of those sentiments I just said.
Oh, yeah, 100%. I mean, this is definitely the Seahawks' toughest test yet. I mean, you can make the argument that any division game is tough, which is true. But when you even add in consideration that you're going across the country to play one of the best teams in the AFC in their home field, just adds that little wrinkle as well. But as you mentioned before, as more and more people were putting the Seahawks on notice, is because the Niners had not because.
Yeah. Also,
the Niners had a 3-game skid, and they're just kind of, I don't know. They've never been in this situation before.
And they made a move too.
And they added Chase Young. The NFC East is moving to the NFC West. I just noticed that. Yeah. Adding Chase Young to be on the other side of his Ohio State teammate, Nick Bosa, is going to be scary.
Yes, it is.
There's a lot to – but I think, as we get closer and closer to that first matchup that the Hawks have on November 22nd. I'm sorry.
23rd. Yeah.
God, numbers. Crazy.
That's okay. Numbers.
It's going to be a crazy game, and that's going to be a fun game. I do think that, as we talked about at length throughout this episodes of this podcast, that this is that stretch, that the Hawks have, that they can really put distance between the Niners or the Rams or anyone really, And a win against Baltimore would be massive in doing that, not only for morale, but just for literally just standings.
Standings, and knowing that wins are hard to come by, especially that brutal stretch in November and December. I mean, you get this one, you're 6-2, and realistically, you probably need to win 10 to get to the playoffs. Now, certainly the Hawks have bigger views than that, right?
Yeah.
But I think that's what gets you to there. What's the next key here, Super Intern Mary?
Coaching genius.
Coaching genius. I thought that's what it was. To me, this is a great coaching matchup. John Harbaugh's been on the job maybe just a couple more years longer than Pete Carroll. And in the sporting world, where coaches are given like 2 years and they're done, which I hate. I think it takes a few years. And I think Pete's proof of that. I mean, like, they certainly had a good first year when he was here and going on and on. But I think in college or pro, whatever it is, I think it takes some time for a coach's influence to really take hold. And I think that's something that we're really going to see in this matchup. The Ravens and Seahawks, no matter even if they have a down year or whatever it is, Najee, they're always seen as like, there's a lot of respect for both teams. And it's something where I think it goes back to the head coaches, that they've been allowed to put their stamp, their identity on it. And they're always going to be good as long as Pete Carroll and John Harbaugh are at their respective teams.
Oh, 100%. If you look at these two teams, these are basically the personification of Pete Carroll and John Harbaugh in personification in other football players.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? This is definitely both teams want to run the ball. They both want to have a strong defense. Ravens one of the strongest in the league. And they're both going to play hard and hit hard as well. You know, the offense of that Ravens team has gotten much better. Last year, it was kind of just like, okay, well, hopefully we can get some people for Lamar Jackson to throw to, you know. They've added a lot of pieces, you know. And it's kind of the same sort of thing with the Seahawks. I mean, going in on the draft, on the defensive side for getting Spoon, which is huge.
Yeah, he's been great.
And Jackson Smith-Njigba, who's coming on definitely at the end here. I think this is definitely going to be one of those. It's going to be a big chess match. I think this game's going to be a 3-point game.
I love
maybe
it.
even less. It's going to be a huge chess match. And I mean, I can't bet against Pete playing chess. I mean, I've never played.
5.5-point dogs.
Yeah,
we'll see. I don't know. I kind of like the Hawks there, but that's like the homer in me, probably.
Yeah, well, even logistically, 5.5 points is a lot.
It's a lot.
You know, it's not a touchdown, but it's more than.
That's a lot of points, especially the way Seahawks play everybody close.
Yeah, definitely.
I like that.
Yeah.
Mary, what's next?
Are we seeing the Legion of Boom return?
Oh, this is what I talked. Are we seeing the Legion of Boom return? Not yet, but I think that it could, as Pete Carroll said, it has the potential to be there. I think that when you look at this team, I think that we talked about it earlier. The dynamic we heard Pete Carroll say, I kind of keep this one short because we talked about it a minute ago, but the dynamic that Pete Carroll described with the stars that are there and the young players having that potential to be stars. I mean, Pete made a point that, you know, Cam Chancellor and Earl Thomas were very different football players. However, it became abundantly clear how well they played together. And there's something special to Legion of Boomham that can never quite be recreated. However, you can still be a pretty darn good defense and just not have a cool nickname like that, or maybe a different nickname or something along those lines.
What about? I was going to say baby boomers. Never mind. I take it back. You know,
baby.
That's kind of what I kind of thought of just now because, I mean, a lot of these guys are younger, obviously, you know. I mean, and some of these guys have been in the league for only a couple of years.
C-fence?
C-fence?
That's stupid.
No. We'll work on it. Right.
You were being so nice to me. You're like, C-fence. And your head, you're like,
well, no,
that's...
I kind of like that, though. It's but I think we're seeing the beginnings of the Legion of Boom. But, I mean, the thing about the Legion of Boom is they hit people like crazy.
Yeah.
That's
Devin Witherspoon does that, too.
Witherspoon does that, too. I think we're seeing similar things to that. Jamal Adams definitely is a hitter. 100% Diggs, definitely. I mean, and the person who could answer this question better than any of us is probably Bobby Wagner. Truthfully,
I'd be interested to see. I'll ask him next week, to be honest with you, because it's clear that it's not that yet.
Right.
But the pieces are there, and Bobby's a kind of common connection to all that. There were some dudes on that defense.
There was some
Sherman, KJ Wright, Bobby. Obviously, we just talked about Cam and Earl. I mean, there were some dudes, but there are on this team too, and only time will tell how far they can go. I do remember what the fourth key is, so we can give Mary a bit of a break there. It's the Leonard Williams difference maker. We talked about that trade a bit, so I'll keep this one brief as well. I think he is a difference maker. I think there was no weak spot on that defense. However, they gave up a lot of rush yards to the Browns. That was a thing last year, too. And if there was an area where you're like, you know what, they could use a little help there, especially after Uchenna Nwosu got hurt, it was the Leonard Williams trade. And I'll say this, people were like, oh, well, the Niners got Chase Young. They got the better deal. Or the Bears got Montez Sweat. This is so silly. That's so silly. I would, if I don't already have my extra point rant, I'd give you another one.
Ooh.
It is so easy. We don't have to brand it. We're just going to do this really quick. It is so easy to look at a trade like, well, I think Chase Young looks better, has better numbers. Are you in that defensive meeting room with Pete and Clint Hurt? No, I'm not either. I'm going to leave it to them to decide which of those available guys at a position of need is the best fit to spend some great capital like a second-round pick on. You know, that is substantial draft capital using a second-round pick.
It is.
I think it's worth it. And I said as much in a tweet, and I was like, but Williams appears to be, worth it. And somebody's like, what do you mean it's substantial? This is a great trade. I'm like, I just said that. So people just like to get mad and not read things.
Well,
but I think the trade is a great one. And I think he really shores up the one position that on that defense wasn't bad, certainly, but he can make them very good, if not elite at that point.
I've got some words here.
Go for it.
As I mentioned before, trades in the NFL are very rare. A second-round draft pick is nothing to sneeze at, And you mentioned Chase Young beforehand. And this is me talking as a Giants fan and someone who's, watched the Giants play against. How much has Chase Young played football? He has not played a lot of football because he's just not been on the field. He's just been not injury prone.
But he's had a few.
He has had a few. Leonard Williams is a guy. He's 6'5", 300 pounds. Okay, this is a guy who can take up space, take up room. And every time I watched the Giants play, and I was really happy watching the Giants play in the past. In fact, Leonard Williams even said he's just happy to play on a winning team. I roll. Okay. He is, and he should be. I'm rolling my eyes because I'm annoyed. But a second-round pick is nothing. I think he's definitely worth it.
Yeah.
100% worth it. I mean, you mentioned before, this is one of the places on the defense that could definitely use a little bit of a spark. I mean, adding a guy. First of all, you add a guy with a nickname like Big Cat. First of all, I mean,
love the Big Cat.
Love Big Cat.
I wish I could be called Big Cat, like as a sportscaster.
And you can be.
Isn't there? Well, there already is a sportscaster, Big Cat.
Yeah,
there's, so maybe not. But I like a cool nickname like that. Like that's a cool nickname. Yeah.
I think, but as I'm watching Leonard Williams play on the Giants, he's always ending up by the ball.
Yeah.
I mean, he's around the ball. If he's not making the sack, he's right behind someone who's making the sack.
I love that. Oh, go ahead. Sorry.
No, I didn't have any other words in that.
I was gonna say I love that he's really excited to join this Hawks team. He says
great hair too.
He has excellent hair.
Yeah.
Pete Carroll saying that. In fact, that's part of the Big Cat nickname is that Leonard said that he had big hair. Everybody thought it looked like a lion's mane.
Yeah.
And then of course he's a big guy, but he's nimble like a cat. Big cat. Yeah. Pete Carroll said he's going to play this weekend. Like he's ready. He's going to get all the information he needs right away. He's just so experienced and so good. Like it's going to be flawless. At least it's how they anticipate it. It really stood out to me. Leonard was saying how the Giants were very respectful in the process. They said, hey, we're not shopping you, but teams are calling about you. What are your thoughts on XYZ? Seattle being one of the teams that were interested. And so it was almost like a negotiation is what Leonard said. And I thought that was a really cool thing.
Yeah.
So those are our KOMO 4 keys. Najee, let's get right to it. Score prediction. What do you think?
I have been pondering this score for a while now. And I know you're the numbers guy because you predicted the Browns, to lose by 4. By the way, congratulations on that, Niko. It's difficult to say because both these offenses had the capabilities to go off.
Yeah.
Lamar Jackson is an MVP level quarterback. I like the Seahawks offense more than the Ravens offense, and I like the Ravens defense slightly more than the Seahawks defense. So let's split the bill. Hawks win 28-21.
Interesting.
On the road, difficult in the all-white uniforms,
which I love.
In the all-white, which I love.
I'm gonna go against my heart here. Sorry.
Ooh.
I'm gonna go Ravens 27-23. I think it's gonna be a close game. You could easily flip-flop to Seahawks 27-23, but for the sake of this, I think Ravens 27-23. I just think that it's just going to be a good game. Like, that's not saying, the Hawks are going to, pull out a clunker. Of course not. Like, they're going to play a good game. I think the Ravens will, too. If there's a difference, maybe it's the home field advantage. And the 12s do genuinely make a difference at Lumen Field. I believe that.
Yeah.
And so does –
they travel well? They travel well.
Oh, there's 12s everywhere.
Yeah,
they had a good showing in Germany last year. They did. And so but you know what? I'm saying that as like a bit of reverse psychology where I hope the Seahawks win. And I think they very well might, and – the Ravens are just a very, very good team as well. This is a great football game. Pete Carroll said it's a championship game. Lamar versus Geno, 2 vaunted defenses. The 2 head coaches. Pete didn't talk about that, but I will say it. This is a lot of fun. I can't wait for this game. Early start for us here on the West Coast, 10 a.m.
Yeah, you got to get that coffee ready because 10 a.m. is I am still getting used to these 10 a.m. kicks on the West Coast. And let me tell you, I'm exhausted. And as you mentioned, I'm looking at the schedule and I'm looking at the other teams in the AFC and I'm looking at, how all the teams in the NFC are doing. I think the Hawks are one of the classes of the NFC. By the way.
I agree.
Could this be, ? A Super Bowl preview?
Ooh. It could very well be.
Birds of prey fighting each other for the Super Bowl. I mean, it's possible,
that would be a rock solid Super Bowl fit.
We may get a preview of that this week. I know many, many, many weeks ahead.
Eagles will be very difficult to unseat in the NFC, but if there's a team that can do it, maybe we'll get a preview of that December 17th when Philly comes here to Seattle. Yeah.
You never know how just adding just one guy who
could change it.
Could just change the whole entire outlook on the defense, especially if a guy who's going to start right away.
Yeah.
As Pete mentioned. I think it'll be fun. I mean, so set your alarms, get ready, continue partying after the UW win the night before, and it's kind of continue that on for the Hawks game. Believe me, it's gonna be fun.
Absolutely. Yeah. Speaking of fun, we had a little fun with Julian Love from the Seahawks. This is a guy that came over in free agency. He tells me he wasn't a free agent long.
Another former Giant.
Former Giant. But one of the reasons he came to Seattle was the idea of playing for a defense and culture like Seattle. Like knowing how much this team and this franchise invests in defense was a big thing to Julian Love. But there's some other cool things. He's actually got a family connection to a famous Seattle restaurant. And I also asked him what Pete Carroll would be for Halloween. You're going to want to watch this. Let's take a listen. Julian Love, KOMO 4 questions.
4 questions. I'm here with Hawk safety Julian Love. Julian, thanks for joining us, man.
Yeah, thanks for having me.
So we got to start right off the bat here. You've been in Seattle a few months. Mm-hmm. Just your favorite thing to do when you're not here at VMAC. What do you think about the area, all that good stuff?
I think the area is beautiful. When I'm not here, I'm probably, not now, but golfing. I love golf. I think there's some beautiful courses around here. Or hitting up Un Bien, Seattle family restaurant. So, yeah.
We love your family history of that restaurant. That's awesome. And, we got to ask now, Halloween had just passed. If Pete Carroll was going trick-or-treating, what would be the best costume for Coach?
I think the best costume for Coach right now would be Indiana Jones.
Wow.
I think he kind of has the Harrison Ford thing going with him, especially, now they both have the silver streaks, the hair. Like a current version of Indiana Jones. Maybe not, the 80s version, but current. Present-day Indiana Jones.
You're doing great things on the field. They may want to sign you to a lifetime contract after those compliments. I love it. Okay, we know you're a Chicago guy, so you get snowy winters there, we get rainy winters here. Which one are you taking? I'm a weather dork, so I got to ask these questions.
I love a snowy winter.
Okay.
I love a snowy Christmas, snowy holidays. I feel like it's time appropriate, and you bundle up, you get cozy, set a fire, eat some warm food, the best.
You can just drive a half hour east and go to the mountains, right? And get it?
Ooh, yeah, exactly right.
All right, so when it comes to this team, we've seen this defense really come together, and it's an interesting mix of veterans, young players. I got to ask, man, how fun is it to be out there?
It's a lot of fun. These guys make my job so easy. I can just play fast, play free, have fun. And when we're all doing our job and doing that, good things happen.
Julian Love, thanks for the time, my friend.
Yeah,
Appreciate you. Good luck.
Appreciate it. Thank you.
So Un Bien is the restaurant his family owns. It's famous around this part. And cool that he comes from across the country and he's a Chicago guy. Played for the Giants, played at Notre Dame, and then he comes to Seattle. Oh, I got family here. It's kind of cool. And
happy for Julian.
Yeah, happy for Julian. You talk about that defensive dynamic. Pete Carroll said about how we talked about earlier, the different personalities out there. And you got guys like Quandre and Jamal Adams and Spoon that are just heavy hitters. Not saying Julian can't lay a big hit because he can, but he's got a different approach, and it's a perfect complement to everybody else on that defense. Plus, Najee, what do you think about Pete Carroll as Indiana Jones with the hair and everything? I mean, that's a cool compliment right there.
It definitely tracks. I can see it. I can picture it. You know what? Yeah, that's actually perfect. I mean, I don't know how much gum Indiana Jones chewed, but I mean, Pete Carroll definitely chews enough gum for 2 people. I think that's an absolute perfect. Did Pete even next year? Pete, we need to see it. I need to see it.
That'd be pretty amazing.
I can definitely see that 100%.
Absolutely. Well, Najee, this was a lot of fun.
This was great.
Go Sounders.
Go Sounders.
Go Rain.
Go Rain.
Go Kraken.
Go Kraken.
Bring back the Sonics.
Yes. Bring them
go
back.
And go Hawks and Hawksies. And of course, we always want the Cougs to do well too, right?
Yes, of course.
Well, this was fun. We'll bring this more to you next week. Of course, you watched and listened to the KOMO Sports End Zone. He's Najee Moye. I am Niko Tamurian. We have a blast bringing this to you. Episode 2 in the books. We'll see you next week for episode 3.
Bye-bye.